Hello lands, lassies, and those of unspecified gender, it's the Irishman here, and today we're going to be talking about what would have happened if the Saiyan Prince was also the first Super Saiyan God. Now, you might not think this will change too much, considering by the time of Resurrection F, both Goku and Vegeta had Super Saiyan God and had even surpassed it. So what's the difference if one of them gets it first? Well, a lot. The butterfly effect states that small things can create big changes, and that's exactly what happens here. Although, without any further delay, let's get into the story of this what if. The god of destruction Beerus has arrived on Earth, after having fought against Son Goku, a Saiyan capable of going super. The strength he displayed was extraordinary, having long since surpassed the power he used to kill Frieza, although even the transformation he used to fight Buu wasn't enough to land even a single hit on the god of destruction. This kind of unlimited power wasn't even capable of being sensed by mortals. So when Vegeta was warned of the god's impending arrival, he prepared everything to make sure he didn't lose another homeworld. Thankfully, this was also the anniversary of his wife's birth, and considering she's the most wealthy woman in the world, she would spare no expense to celebrate herself. The best food, drink, and entertainment the world had to offer was already gathered together in one spot, so there wasn't too much Vegeta had to do to keep Beerus satisfied. That being said, it was still a bumpy ride. One the prince would have to smooth out by doing all sorts of embarrassing and demeaning acts, practically acting like a slave for the god of destruction. But it was all worth it if it meant his family was safe. He's a far cry from the merciless warrior we saw all the way back in the Saiyan saga, or at least he was, until one moment that forced him back over the edge.
That's my you.
With his rage at an all-time high, Vegeta's power surges to the extent he's able to even challenge Beerus. But unlike the original, he doesn't stop growing. He continues to get stronger and stronger every hit he lands on Beerus, just accelerating his growth further, until eventually his hair begins to stand up and flow backwards. He's achieved Super Saiyan 3. We know from Daima now that Vegeta had access to this form. He just chose not to use it, maybe because of the drawbacks, maybe for some out-of-story reason, but either way, he has it now. Even in just Super Saiyan 2, Vegeta was considered stronger than the Goku that Beerus had fought. But now in Super Saiyan 3, he's in an entirely different league. But let's be real here. Beerus was still heavily suppressed and Vegeta possessed no divine presence, so he stood no chance in a battle of gods.
You should be proud of yourself, Prince. You've been a fun plaything for the last 20 seconds, but you're still no Super Saiyan God.
Then, as if it was the easiest thing he had ever done, Beerus would slap Vegeta to the ground, pretty much the same way he did Bulma. That definitely hurt the pride a little. The rest of Battle of Gods pretty much plays out the same from there. Oolong would challenge Beerus to a game of rock, scissors, paper, and he would lose, which was the straw that broke the camel's back, and now Beerus is going to destroy the Earth. Thanks a lot, Oolong. But just before the giant blast of energy that Beerus had charged up leaves his hand, Goku would arrive to try and negotiate with the Destroyer. He says he has an idea as to how they can bring the Super Saiyan God to them. That way, Beerus can finally have his worthy challenger. However, it requires they get the Dragon Balls. Thankfully, Bulma had already gathered them as a prize in a bingo tournament, which is genuinely crazy, but it did come in handy here. With the Wish Orbs all gathered together and a couple magic words spoken, Shinron would be summoned forth, and he's absolutely terrified to see Beerus. More so when he realizes he can't give the god of destruction what he wants, cause the Super Saiyan God isn't a person, or at least it isn't yet. To bring forth the Super Saiyan God, they need to have 5 kind-hearted Saiyans flow their energy into another. Then and only then will a Super Saiyan God be born from the Center Saiyan in this ritual. They would attempt to perform the ritual, everybody locking hands and flowing their power into Goku, although after realizing they need 6 Saiyans rather than just 5, they would try it again, except now with Videl. But there's another change to the order as well. Beerus would point out how Vegeta was far stronger than Goku, especially after using that long-haired form. And since the Saiyan Prince has seemed to absorb that power into his base form, it only makes sense to have him be the one undergoing the ritual. With no real way to argue, and Goku not even really wanting this power handed to him, the two Saiyans would then switch places. And as everybody flows their power through one another and into Vegeta, he would rise into the air. He would be engulfed by a blinding light as energy would begin to crystallize around the Saiyan Prince. His body would morph slightly into what was his peak physical form. As his energy rises so high, nobody there can sense it with the obvious exception of Beerus and Whis. Once the light fades, he's revealed to be standing there in a brand new transformation. Ruby red hair and a pure divine aura. His power is multiple times greater than what Goku's was in the original. Beerus is having a hard time hiding his excitement, as all he wants to do is begin the battle. Thankfully for him though, Vegeta would take no more than a couple moments to get acclimated to this power. He immediately rushes in and lands the first blow in this battle of gods. Despite caring for Earth and its people, Vegeta was not too concerned about collateral damage, so he and Beerus would spend a lot more time fighting above cities and in caves instead of immediately rushing up to space. Besides, keeping Earth closer was a great reminder why he was fighting. He didn't want to see another homeworld destroyed, and this pushed him to go even further beyond. One very important distinction between Vegeta and Goku is that the latter refuses to be handed power. He wants to work for the strength he obtains, and even though in recent years Vegeta does share that sentiment, Goku has it to the extreme. He was outright rejecting the God Ki inside of him simply because it was a power he didn't earn. Whereas in the very last arc, Vegeta allowed himself to be mind-controlled just for a quick convenient power-up. Suffice to say, the Prince would embrace the form far better than his eternal rival, utilizing it to its fullest and growing far faster than Goku did. Not only that, but I also believe that Vegeta would never naturally lose access to the transformation. Rather, I believe we would see things going down a little differently by the end of the fight.
It seems you're done improving. Quite a shame. I was almost having fun.
No, it's not that. It's just, I've been conserving my power. I have a theory.
See, this power is definitely godly, but it's not a Super Saiyan.
For a very brief moment, Beerus is able to see Vegeta enter the Super Saiyan Blue form. His power is extreme and much unlike Super Saiyan God, everybody can sense it. His mortal ki mixed with the godly energy in such a way that he achieved a brilliant new form. One that the God of Destruction is interested in more than anything else, although it only appeared for a very small amount of time. Vegeta couldn't even properly utilize it, and honestly, he might not have even known that he achieved it. Everybody else did though, and this will be very important later. However, for the time being, Beerus calls off the fight, since Vegeta would have reverted back to regular Super Saiyan, seeing as he expended all of his godly ki. However, he is confident he'll be able to access that form later on without any additional training. This doesn't change the fact Beerus would demand he train with Whis as soon as possible, but overall, the kitty cat enjoyed his time here and says he won't destroy the Earth. This time. The Destroyer would apologize to Bulma for his little outburst earlier, as well as for pretty much wrecking her party. However, she doesn't mind that much. I mean, it's not every day you get to become friends with a god. And to that, Beerus would say not to get carried away, but he's not too upset at the idea. After all, she is able to supply him with the best food. After the deities leave, Vegeta would enjoy some quality time with his family and friends, as the after party is still raging at Bulma's place. Now here's where things get really interesting. Vegeta would almost immediately start training with Whis. People call Goku a bad dad, but Vegeta is more than eager to abandon his family for a short time if it means getting some quality training in. And since Bulma's never needed him around 24/7, he's able to train on Beerus's planet as much as he wants. He would grow incredibly quickly, and since he already had access to Super Saiyan God thanks to him embracing the form, he didn't need to relearn God Ki like Goku did, and instead can focus on surpassing Super Saiyan God. And it doesn't take him that long to access Blue. In fact, he's able to master it by the time Resurrection F takes place. But funnily enough, he wouldn't actually take part in that movie, as without instant transmission, he has no way to get to Earth when Bulma calls. Sure, Whis is fast, but he's not instant transmission fast, and by the time that he and Whis would arrive on Earth, Goku and the rest of the gang have already handled it. But how is that possible? I haven't mentioned anything about Goku learning how to use God Ki or obtaining any sort of divine forms, and that's cause he wouldn't, but how could he beat Frieza? Well, he simply grew strong enough to defeat the Tyrant on his own, without any sort of godly enhancements. But how? Well, he felt just how strong God Ki was firsthand against Beerus, and even though he didn't get a proper taste of that energy, he kind of did. When Vegeta activated Super Saiyan Blue against Beerus for a brief moment, that was long enough for Goku to catch on to just how far ahead these god-level fighters were. It seemed like an impossible gap to clear, although that's never stopped Goku before. He would train his butt off, he'd master Super Saiyan 3, and even attempt to add Kaioken on top. At first, it was a strenuous process, but eventually he gets the hang of it. The first time he tries it, it would nearly kill him, but the second time's a little better. And the third after that. Fourth, fifth, sixth, it keeps going until eventually he's able to maintain Kaioken even in higher levels on top of Super Saiyan 3. But could that alone really put him on the same level as literal gods? Well, probably not on its own. It would definitely help, but it couldn't bridge the gap between mortal and deity. That is, until he starts training with Gohan, the Saiyan-human hybrid with ultimate power and potential to rival the gods. The only problem is, he doesn't keep up his training. But with Goku on Earth and around his family all hours of the day, I'm sure that would change. Not to mention, the father-son duo make excellent sparring partners for each other. And as Gohan continually gets stronger and his ultimate form eventually surpasses Super Saiyan 3, Goku would begin adding Kaioken on top. This doesn't just help to make the two stronger, but it also helps Goku refine this technique. And eventually, when Frieza does arrive on Earth, Goku and Gohan together would be able to send him back to Hell. Don't get me wrong, it'd be a hard-fought battle, and they'd barely make it out alive. However, with Frieza's increased stamina loss and golden form, and the fact these two would be an honest-to-god challenge for that power, I'm pretty sure the Z-Fighters pull out a victory. Bulma would give her husband slack for not being here on time since they all almost died, but hey, at least he's a little stronger, right? That's not totally fair since Vegeta can't get here instantly, but since he didn't have a plan in place in case another threat did arise, yeah, this is kinda on him. Seeing that Whis and Vegeta did arrive, Goku would rush over, asking for a spar with his best buddy. But Vegeta's a little hesitant. He's gotten way stronger with God Ki and all. But Goku doesn't really care, and obviously Vegeta's going to take the chance to embarrass Kakarot basically anytime he can. The two would start out in base, and obviously Vegeta would have a massive lead, although Goku is able to hold up surprisingly well. Only after activating Super Saiyan is the gap fully closed, and Vegeta is shocked that that alone was enough. Wanting to bump things up a notch, Goku would instantly and effortlessly activate Super Saiyan 3, which went to surprise Vegeta, as he knew this was a very strenuous form, yet Goku used it so casually. In response to this, the Heavenly Fighter would power up into regular Super Saiyan, which was somehow enough to majorly outclass Goku. That is, until he started using Kaioken. Sadly though, in order to match Vegeta's power, Goku had to use Kaioken to a level where he could only activate it in short bursts. Otherwise, he'd tear his body apart. He would have a lower level of Kaioken going at all times, that way Vegeta couldn't just clobber on him, although if he wanted to see his hits have any sort of effect, then he definitely had to turn it up a notch. After a while, with Goku's stamina running out, Vegeta wanted to show off. So, in a moment similar to his fight against Kaba in the main story, Vegeta powered up to Super Saiyan Blue for a split second. landing a single hit and knocking Goku out immediately. After coming back to, Goku would realize just how big the gap in power really is. Sure, he was able to keep up for a minute there, although the second Vegeta showed off his full power, Goku wasn't able to do anything. After returning home, Goku would begin theorizing what he can do to bridge that gap. And although you might expect me to introduce Super Saiyan 4 here, like I usually do in situations like this, I'm not going to. Not to suggest that I don't enjoy the form anymore, I do. Not to suggest I don't enjoy the transformation anymore, I do, it's awesome, but it just doesn't seem relevant in this story specifically. If Goku were to attain it, it would definitely boost his power enough to rival Vegeta. It's just, it wouldn't get introduced. It's not the kind of form you can just access by progressing to that level. It has other requirements. You need to be able to access Great Ape and then put Super Saiyan on top of it. And I just don't think Goku would ever even think of that, let alone actually be able to accomplish it, since, well, he doesn't have a tail. So yeah, Super Saiyan 4 is off the table, although he would still continue getting stronger, even if that means he has to stick with Kaioken on just Super Saiyan 3. That is, until Gohan brings up the ultimate form and suggests that his father obtains it. It only takes a single day of Elder Kai dancing around you, and even if it's not the most honorable way to get stronger, Vegeta also underwent a ritual, and at least here it's your own strength being drawn out from within you, rather than new strength being handed to you. And with this in mind, Goku would actually accept, teleporting to the land of the Kais and asking that the old pervert unlock his potential. But Elder Kai reminds him that nothing in this world comes for free. So unless he has some gas, some grass, or some ass, there's no way he's getting what he wants. Funnily enough though, being able to teleport instantly across the entire universe, there's nothing Goku can't get. And there's probably at least a couple girls who would sleep with Elder Kai, so he would find them and bring him here. Let's not forget, he is still a god, even if he is old and gross. The only condition is that Goku doesn't want to wait around while Elder Kai has his fun with the ladies, and thus gets the ritual done on him before any of that funny business. Obviously, he would agree, and after one short day, Goku now has the ultimate form. And even though he has less potential than Gohan, his version of Potential Unleashed should be stronger than Gohan's. Since the way the ultimate form works, it takes your strongest form, makes it stronger, and also removes all of the negative aspects of it, such as stamina loss. And since Goku has access to a higher version of Super Saiyan than Gohan does, his ultimate form should also be stronger. That is, until Gohan also gains access to Super Saiyan 3, then they should be on an even playing field again. A couple intense months of training would pass on everybody's fronts, until eventually Vegeta and Beerus would arrive on Earth, telling everybody about the Universe 6 vs 7 tournament that was planned. Turns out there's entire other universes out there, and Universe 6 is a twin universe to Universe 7. Wow, I just said universe a lot there. Also, calling it a universal tournament might be a bit of an exaggeration. After all, it's only 5 members from each team going head-to-head in one-on-one battles. Not exactly as extreme as the name makes it out to be. Right now, the Z-Fighters need to figure out who those 5 members will be, and obviously the first is Vegeta. He's been trained by the gods and angels, so he's the obvious best pick, and after that is Goku and Gohan. Sure, Gohan might not have been in the original, but that's because he had a conference and had to blow off something that decided the fate of the Earth. That's just silly. He's going to be participating here. Another obvious pick is Piccolo, who's far stronger than he was in the original and is actually keeping up with Goku and Gohan, thanks to having far better training partners in those two. And although you might expect me to say Monaka as the 5th member, I don't think there's any need for him to participate here. Vegeta would already be motivated to continue growing stronger, as his current goalpost isn't Goku, it's Beerus. And the crazy part is, he's not too far off. Obviously, he has a long way to go, but without Goku holding him back, Vegeta's able to grow far faster than he did originally. Yes, you heard me right, Vegeta was being held back by Goku. Well, more so the idea that Goku would always be ahead of him and that he always had to catch up. This just wasn't the case here. Not only was this not true, but Vegeta never believed it, as he proved himself the stronger of the two before he even had the Super Saiyan God ritual performed on him. All of that to say that Vegeta's training was far more effective than in the original, and there's no need to introduce Monaka. But with that out of the way, who would the fifth member be? Well, as uneventful as it might seem, it's still going to be Krillin. Nothing really changed on Earth except that Goku was more involved in everybody's lives. So he might be a bit stronger, but the fifth member's still going to be Krillin. Nothing wrong with that, I mean Krillin's awesome, just maybe not top 5 strongest in the universe awesome. With all of the fighters and spectators gathered together, Whis would set course for the nameless planet that they would be going to hold the tournament. Champa and Vados would arrive with their fighters at about the same time, and everyone would get situated. Obviously, Bulma would still complain about how uncushioned the seats were, and the stands would be redecorated. This does annoy Champa though, as he's being made to look sloppy and inconsiderate, which he is, he just doesn't want people to know that. The tournament bracket would be created, and the lineup for fights would be assigned. The first is between Goku and Botamo. Vegeta might be the strongest, but that doesn't mean he gets his way every time, so he is still set up to fight second. Well, second as long as Goku gets eliminated, because it's entirely possible he clears the other team. They have no idea how strong fighters from Universe 6 really are. And Botamo certainly isn't the best first impression, as he's taken out relatively easily once Goku figures out his whole gimmick. Frost is up next, and assuming he's not the strongest member of Universe 6's team, they might have some trouble here, seeing as Goku is forced into using Super Saiyan to deal with just his first form. They all know he has forms beyond this, especially after their run-in with Frieza only a couple months ago. And after some goading by Goku, Frost would transform into his final one. This might actually be a problem. Goku needs to resort to whipping out his ultimate form for the first time in an actual fight, and even then he's still struggling a little. Thankfully, he can use Kaioken on top of this, but if he couldn't, he might have lost. Frost would have attempted to not use his poison needles at risk of getting caught, and by the time Goku uses Kaioken, he's aiming to finish the fight quick, not giving the Frost Demon a chance to use his secret weapon. He might not have won any matches, but this does actually help out Frost, at least in the long run. It means he's not revealed to be a fraud and shown to be the scum that we all know him as. Worse for Universe 6 as a whole, but better for Frost. And hey, maybe he'll start training, turn over a new leaf, and I'm just kidding. He's not going to be doing any of that. Anyway, on to our next match, we would have Goku versus Kaba, and the two would start off going head to head in base form, which is ultimately why I believe Kaba would end up winning. In terms of base power, Goku is so far behind it's not even funny. And knowing that the Universe 7 Saiyans can transform where Kaba can't, he would decide to end the fight before Goku can go Super Saiyan. It might be considered dishonorable to defeat your opponent before they get the chance to reach their best, but Kaba doesn't really care. So he's able to progress in the tournament, going up against Vegeta next, and this is where he might have some problems. Starting off base to base again, Vegeta is leagues beyond the Universe 6 Saiyan. As I mentioned before, this version of the Prince is beyond where he was originally, and thus far surpasses Kaba. Just to nail home how much stronger he is than any other Saiyan in any other universe, Vegeta would display the power of Super Saiyan, but he wouldn't teach it to Kaba. Just because of how the last fight went, Vegeta's already determined he doesn't want to take in this kid as his student. Beating Goku like that was a smart move, but like I said, it's also very dishonorable. He had seen Goku's highest power, and not wanting to face that head-on meant that he was no true Saiyan, at least not in Vegeta's eyes. The fight with Vegeta would be completely unchanged because there wasn't really a huge factor. The fight with Vegeta would go pretty much unchanged, mostly because power wasn't a huge factor in it. Although when it comes time to face off against Hit, Gohan would request that he gets to go up first, since he wants to show off the fruits of his labor training for the past couple of years. The last time he had a real fight was so long ago, it was against Buu, and honestly Gohan could probably beat him in base at this point. But Hit seems like the perfect challenge to show off just how much Gohan has improved. And besides, if he beats Hit, then it was never going to be a fun fight for Vegeta anyway. But if he loses, then no harm was done, and if anything, Vegeta gets to test out what Hit's abilities are without having to actually go up against them. The prince would accept and ask if this was something they could do, to which the tournament announcer would confirm and have Vegeta and Gohan's places switched on the roster. The battle would begin and Gohan would immediately activate his ultimate form, narrowly saving himself from getting one-hit KO'd by the assassin. Hit immediately tries to use the time skip to take out Gohan right away, although since the Half Saiyan was already using his full power from the start, he's able to survive at least one blow. For the beginning of the fight, Gohan mostly stays on the defensive, trying to avoid Hit's attacks, but that's easier said than done. He moves almost instantaneously whenever he's going in for a strike. However, for a short period after, he does move pretty slow, and his raw power isn't that high, at least compared to the other godly fighters, of which Gohan could be considered a part of. He doesn't have any god ki per se, but he does still have the ultimate form, alongside his insane hybrid potential. He's not stronger than Hit by any means, but he is on the same playing field. So if he's able to find a way around the time skip and continue adapting throughout the fight, then he should be able to pull out a victory. But speaking of adaptation, as Gohan gets better working around the time skip, Hit would get better using it, meaning that although Gohan did fare better than anybody expected, he would still end up losing. And then in comes Vegeta. Well, actually Piccolo. Since Gohan and Vegeta's spots on the roster were switched, Vegeta is now behind Piccolo up to fight Hit, which is a little annoying, but hey, it gives him more time to study Hit's time skip. Or at least that's what he thinks, until Piccolo shows off his epic power and sends his stretchy arm straight up Hit's ass. Despite now knowing how to avoid Hit's time skip thanks to watching Gohan fight and being an absolute strategic genius, Piccolo still would lose this, just because of the massive raw power difference between the two. The time-skipping assassin wouldn't even need to use his signature move to win here, which is a little sad since Piccolo is stronger than he was before, just not strong enough. Now it's time for Vegeta. Just kidding, it's Krillin time! No, it's not. Even if it was Krillin who was up next to fight, he'd probably just bow out, not wanting to embarrass himself. With the prince now getting his opportunity to face off against Hit, he would enter the fight with Super Saiyan God, mostly just testing to see how well he can respond against the time skip. And really, Vegeta believes this might be enough to take out Hit on his own. After watching Gohan fight, he has a pretty good understanding of how the time skip works, and after only about a minute of actually fighting Hit, he's able to overcome the time skip relatively easily. In terms of raw power, they might be close, although Vegeta does still have a slight edge. So since this is the first real challenge he's had in a while, he would choose not to use blue. And after realizing he's being toyed with, Hit decides to forfeit the match, which is pretty annoying to Vegeta. He wanted to get a good fight out of this, but he does understand. Champa would be utterly infuriated that he lost, and he threatens to erase his entire team. Although he doesn't have the opportunity, as shortly after he starts screaming, Zeno would arrive. Yeah, once the Omni King enters the room, everybody has to chill out. Even the likes of Beerus and Champa, who are feared destroyers, get on their hands and knees begging not to be erased. But that's not why he's here at all. Quite the opposite, in fact. He wanted to thank the gods because this was an awesome show. In fact, he's thinking of holding his own tournament one day, but maybe on a grander scale. Sadly, Goku wouldn't get the opportunity to jump in and say what's up dog because, well, he's just not fast enough. Beerus would grab him by the back of his shirt and force him into his seat, that way he didn't end up embarrassing them in front of the Omni King. But don't think this means the Tournament of Power will never happen. It will, just maybe a little late. However, for right now, let's focus in on some pesky gods who are developing a vendetta. Of course, I'm referring to Zamasu, who was shown the entire tournament by his teacher Gowasu, and frankly, he's not liking it one bit. Well, actually no, he thought it was pretty cool, up until the point he saw Vegeta using God Ki. A filthy mortal ape utilizing the power of the gods is just sinful and disgusting. He has to do something about it, but he can't. He's in an entirely different realm, and really, he's not even a Supreme Kai yet. Right now, all he can do is linger upon this hatred, and that he does for quite some time. up until the point he begins to brew a sinister plan. The first thing he does is strike down Kawasu. He can't have his master getting in his way, and especially not the Destroyer. Then he goes to Universe 7 and eventually 6, hunting down all of the Super Dragon Balls, wishing to swap bodies with one of the fighters he saw in the tournament, but not Vegeta. No, he already saw how strong that primate can get when accessing the power of divinity. He's more interested in Gohan. Remember, Vegeta never wins Super Saiyan Blue in the tournament, and with only Super Saiyan God, he and Ultimate Gohan were pretty close in terms of power. Sure, Vegeta was still stronger, but not that far ahead. In his mind, the only edge Vegeta had was God Ki, and he's not wrong. If the two were to train on equal playing fields, Gohan would definitely be stronger. So Zamasu has a clear pick as to whose body he's taking over. After taking over Gohan's body, he decides to create a new name for himself. That way, as he's slaughtering all of Gohan's friends and family, they don't get mixed up. He calls himself Black, and with the potential of Son Gohan, he very well might be unstoppable. And that's where we're ending it for today. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like the video, subscribe to the page, and hit that bell, that way you're notified whenever I release any new videos, like the next part to this very series. With the usual YouTuber jargon out of the way, talk to you later. This is, always has been, and always will be the Irishman. Bye.